stay. I want to introduce the folks that are going to answer your questions tonight. So we are so honored to have with us Regina Kort, who you met in the film, Sonia's daughter, and Dr. Milton Katz, both here to represent as well the Midwest Center for Holocaust Education. So may I have them join me? So while we're waiting for some cards to come our way, Regina, so how's Mom doing? Tell us about her.
Mom's a strong woman. She did come down with the influenza A, and we had to put her in the hospital for a month. Excuse me, I want to say a month, a week. And she's just now getting back to work, but not spending a whole lot of time there. But she's going to be fine.
But she goes to the shop once she's better. She's going to the shop every day.
Yes, absolutely.
That's fantastic. So do you want to plug? Do you want to tell us where it is, and we can all go there?
Oh, dear. Okay. If you decide to go visit my mother, just give her a little time. She has a steady flow of people coming in there. Actually, a lot of them are coming directly from the movie theater at Glenwood, and they show it like 2 or 3 times a day, and they come directly from the movie theater to meet her. So it is on the northwest corner of 95th and Knoll, 5600 West 95th Street in the Bel Air building, and great place to bring your tailoring as well.
Great.
And also the movie, we've just been overwhelmed with the response and the success of the movie. At the Glenwood Theater, it has been the most highly grossing movie they've ever had. Wow. And so this is their 16th week. And as of just a few days ago, in Kansas City, there have been 22,000 people who have come to the Glenwood to see Big Sonia.
That's fantastic.
And another really, really super exciting, just thrilling, we just found out a few days ago that we're going to have a special screening of Big Sonia for the Congress and senators on Capitol Hill. Wow. April the 12th, and so we just got our airfare and making sure my mom will be okay so she can come along.
They need a good message.
Yes,
right now.
The movie is so
they
timely.
Really do.
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, so thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us as well. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the film?
Sure. I'm a professor and vice president of academic affairs at the Kansas City Art Institute, and I teach a class on art and film and literature of the Holocaust. And I've been a member, as Regina, of course, has been, of the Midwest Center for Holocaust Education here in Overland Park. But actually, I just told Regina a moment ago that I've seen this film. This is the 3rd time I've seen this film. And actually, I was touched more this time than even the 2 previous times. Because I realized that the day that Sonia was liberated at Bergen-Belsen was April the 15th, 1945, and that's the day that I was born. And the second connection that I have, so I feel it deeply, is that I have 3 grandsons here in Kansas City, and 2 of them are at Lakewood Middle School. And as you saw Regina and her mom walking into Lakewood Middle School, and they spoke maybe about a month ago to the 8th grade class. And my eldest grandson is in 8th grade, so he told me how much it meant to him and his fellow students. And of course, you can see that in the film.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, so we have a couple questions, so keep passing them in. So this one is, tell us how Sonia and John came to Kansas City. How did they choose Kansas City?
Well, it's an interesting story. My aunt and uncle, who were Holocaust survivors as well, came in 1946. When they got to immigration in New York, they asked them where they wanted to live in the United States. And my uncle said, well, we don't have any family here, just please send us someplace where the people are good and kind. So they sent them to Kansas City. And when he said to my uncle, Kansas City, he said he just wanted to make sure it was in the United States, because he had never heard of it. So they got to Kansas City in 1946, then 1948. My parents immigrated, and of course they wanted to come where their relatives were. So that's how they ended up in Kansas City.
Wow. Good and kind people, all of us. Very good. So tell us about the process of making the film a little bit. Did you have to talk Sonia into doing this, or was this kind of an extension of what she had already been doing in the community?
You know, really what happened was my niece and her husband are in the business of making films, and they're freelancers. So they got married several years ago. They came to Kansas City, and her husband meets my mother. So he's thinking, wow, this is a great subject for a little short. Let's do like a 10, 15-minute movie. And we'll just make it about Sonia and her personality and all these great people who come in to see her and follow her. And so that was the initial intent. As they started filming, and they live in Seattle. In their spare time, they'd come back. Well, every time they'd come back, something would happen, or the movie just really took on a life of its own, and then they realized that there was just a much bigger, more important story to tell. So they decided that they were just going to devote themselves in their spare time, and it took them about 6 years to do all the filming before the movie was created. And my mother, she just didn't get it. She was like, this is going to be a movie about me and the Holocaust and what happened to me in the Holocaust. And we kept telling her, no, there's other things that are going to be going on in this movie. And so she just didn't get it. It was like, why would they want to make anything else other than telling my story? But that was never their intent from the beginning. And they realized when there was a bigger picture, they definitely wanted that thread of the Holocaust because it is extremely important. But there are other layers just as important that they thought they needed to express in the movie. And so once the movie was completed and my mother saw the final cut, she was almost 100% happy with it, except for the couple of things that I said about marrying a rich man. She hated that. And how my siblings left Kansas City, that bothered her. But then once she saw it and how people reacted to it, she was like, you know, I'm the diva, I'm great. She was happy with it, so.
She forgave you.
She's just like, she can't get enough of it now.
So do you find that, you know, it's been decades since the Holocaust actually occurred, thank you, and her message is to go out and make sure that people know that it happened and how she survived. What are the other ways that, say, the Midwest Center for Holocaust Education gives that message and reminds people of what happened historically?
Well, yeah, I think it's incredibly important that the second generation, which of course Regina symbolizes, is now speaking about the Holocaust. In my class, I've been teaching at the Art Institute for a very long time, and I've had Holocaust survivors speak to the class, and it's always incredibly moving and impactful. But in fact, the second generation, and I've had a few of them before as well, they can relate to the students in a very different but very direct way. So I think that's certainly one of the things, as well as a film like this. I mean, this film is truly incredible. I teach a class on films, and this film touches so many people. And the transference, you know, in colleges and universities today, we talk about transference of skills. But what this movie is about, at least that I believe what it's about, is the transference of the heart. And it really touches all of us in that way, and especially young people. It is so incredibly important, as is said in the film, and Sonia actually says it, to touch young people in this way.
Thank you. So somebody has asked about the experience of getting her tattoo, and how old was she when that happened, and what does it mean?
Well, my mother, when she went to her second camp, it was Auschwitz-Birkenau. And at that stage, she was about 16 and a half, 17, somewhere in there. And Auschwitz was the only death camp that tattooed their prisoners. So she says that when, of course, it was a horrible feeling knowing that they were going to take away your total identity, and from then on out you would be identified by this number that was tattooed on your arm, and it also had the symbol of a triangle underneath it, which indicated she was Jewish.
Thank you. Someone else has asked, why were people moved from camp to camp? Do we know?
You know, maybe Milton, you can answer that better, but I've asked authorities, and apparently there was no real rhyme or reason why they kept moving people around.
That's true, but Auschwitz was liberated in January of 1945, and then they moved, and perhaps your mother was one, they moved them into Germany. So that was called the Death March. I'm sure some of you have read about it, maybe you know about it. And so they moved them west into Germany. So that's where she probably ended up in Bergen-Belsen. And so that was part of it, but you're right. A lot of times it wasn't rhyme or reason. It was just they decided that the Allies were coming in close to one of the camps, and they would move the prisoners, those that could still walk, to a different camp.
Someone would like to know how long Sonia had to wait when she was shot during the liberation.
She says she can't remember, but it was pretty immediate because the British were just about ready to enter the camp when she was shot. So they found her laying there, and the Red Cross was directly behind them. And so as soon as they found her, they immediately started taking care of her.
So somebody would like to know where Sonia finds her strength.
Well, you know, honestly, I have to say that I think a lot of it is literally DNA. She has a really strong personality and really stubborn. And I think that stubbornness got her through. And of course, you had to be lucky as well. But she was determined. She really wanted to stay alive. She really wanted to live, even though she was witnessing this horror that was going on around her. And particularly when she, in her first camp in Majdanek, when she sees the girls hung and one of them says, "Never forget, take revenge." Well, she didn't take revenge, but that was something that just kept in her mind, that she just had to keep going so that she'd be a living witness to what had happened.
Thank you. And here's Addison, who's in 5th grade, who wanted to know, what was it like for you to know you could die any day and that you saw your family die as well?
Well, my mother says that she was always thinking ahead. She was always trying to figure out how she was going to stay alive the next day. And she would, like, for instance, when she got her bread, she would eat all her bread. She said she thinks that was something that really helped because some people would take a little bite and then they'd hide it and then wait and take another little bite. But she thinks that was one of the key things that kept her going. But, you know, I honestly, since my mother isn't here, I can't really answer that 100%, what that had to feel like for her.
It's hard for any of us to imagine that, yeah. Somebody wants to know if she does get together with other survivors.
You know, when they came to Kansas City, there was a survivor community that was getting established. I don't know the exact number. They can't give you an exact number because they didn't keep count at that time, but there were quite a few survivors here. And so their friends, the people that they associated with, because those were the people they could connect with and have things in common with, were survivors. So yes, they made a lot of other survivor friends here in Kansas City.
So this question is for you. How long was it or how old were you when your parents spoke to you about these experiences?
Yeah, I get this question asked all the time. As far back as I can remember, to tell you the truth, I feel like I was so ingrained with the Holocaust for two reasons. First of all, as I said, when they socialized, it was with survivors. And you could not get together with survivors, at least back then, where they at some point didn't talk about their experiences. And as children, you would overhear it. And the second reason was my parents didn't hide it from us. They didn't keep it a secret. And they would answer age-appropriate questions. And if we would ask a question when I was age 5, like, where are my grandparents? They would say something like, well, they were dead, and they wouldn't give us the specifics. But as we got older and started asking more questions, they did tell us. Now, there are a lot of survivors who couldn't talk about it. But in my household, so I always feel like I knew it from the beginning, and I did definitely know. My parents were different than the other parents at school, and there was just, you could just feel it. They had a dark past, something awful had happened to them and their family. You just knew it as a very young child.
So how do you compare that with your children's experience in hearing these stories?
Well, I was very conscious of not making it such a large part of their life as it was for me. And of course, I wanted them to be aware and know the history of it. And of course, with my mother living here and my father, unfortunately, he passed away 30 years ago, but my kids growing up had somewhat of a connection with him. So, and again, we didn't keep it a secret, but I was very careful. I didn't want my mother dwelling on it when she was around them. A little conversation was fine, but I didn't want it to be entering into everything we did. So, yes, it was important to me, but not to the extent that it was going to be this constant in their life.
And this is one of the last questions we have at this point. Has Sonia ever been back to the camps? Does she have any interest in it?
I get asked it all the time. You know, she used to say, well, if my kids wanted to go back, maybe I'd go back. Well, the three of us couldn't decide if we wanted to go back because it was just so emotional for us. So no, we've never been back. There's a part of me that keeps saying, you know, maybe I could do it now, maybe I will one day. But I don't think my mother will. No, at this point, she's 92. I wouldn't even let her now.
What else would you all like to share with us?
Well, you know, one of the things that is interesting in the film, and Regina's referred to this, is, and I think some of you know this, maybe a lot of you do, but for a long time after World War II ended, people did not talk about the Holocaust. It wasn't in the history books. I was in college in the 1960s. We did not study it. We studied World War II. We did not study the Holocaust. It was only when I was in graduate school that we started talking about it. And, you know, like you said, you talked about it in your home, and I don't know when your mother actually started speaking publicly about it, but for a very long time, and some of us might remember it was a TV series called The Holocaust, which came out in 1979. And it was on one of the major stations, because that's all we had. We didn't have cable back then. And that helped to break the silence. The Eichmann trial in the early 60s helped to break the silence. But it must have been very difficult for your mother and other survivors to keep it within and just within the family and talk about it amongst themselves, like you just referred to, but not talk about it with others. And you can just imagine, and of course you witnessed it, how cathartic it must have been when they first began to talk about it openly and people began to study it and be influenced by it and touched by it. And that was pretty recent in our past.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know for my mother, as far as public speaking, what really stirred her on was when she started hearing about the Holocaust deniers and the neo-Nazis and the skinheads, but particularly the deniers. So you can imagine how you would feel going through that hell, and then somebody telling you that it never existed. So she felt after that she really had a mission to come out and start speaking. And so, and I'm glad she is.
Me too. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you for this film. It's just a blessing. And thanks to all of you for being here tonight and attending the Polsky series. Again, we want to say thanks to the JCCC Foundation, to the Business Marketing and Entrepreneurship Club, the Honors Club here at the college, and the journalism folks. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.